And then I will be supposed to spout and stuff.
Good afternoon. I would like to call this meeting of the Block Island Housing Board to order. Our first agenda item is public input. Please. You have to press.
Now it is. Just a couple of stats I wanted to kind of give you guys, and my hope is that we can all work together. I'm sorry, Allison Carley, Director of Human Services. Being a human service director, I get a lot of questions about housing. So I dug in a little bit with properties that have nothing to do with you guys, but in general. The first one is a stat, and that is out of 16 people on a wait list at Ball O'Brien Housing, more than half of those people come from other cities in Rhode Island requesting the housing. They've got one apartment opening up. The wait list is judged, I'm sure you guys know, based off of income. It's not the length of time that you've been on it, it's where you're at financially. The second thing I wanted to just put on everybody's docket, I don't know if you've already thought of it, but I've kind of been working with some homeowner associations. I work closely with Mary D Fund. They pay a lot of the electrical bills and oil bills and things like that. I think it's important that when kind of moving forward with this, that Marguerite's brought in, because I think it's an expense that a lot of people aren't aware of. And I think the goal is to make sure that they can take care of themselves. And then finally, I want to make sure that you consider a monitoring entity. I can see that there are some issues with current housing on the island where there are places vacant for 9 months out of the year, which is eroding this problem even further. And I've been working with an entity that's willing to come out here and educate us about how important it is, because if one person breaks the law or whatever the law is in those deed restrictions, then it kind of, lays a path down for others to do it. And it's definitely been seen. And I think that if we straighten some of that out, there will be more housing available. And then lastly, I got 2 phone calls today about people asking me to go on a list. Do you guys have a list? And if so, do you want me to compile a list and hold on to it? Or how does that all work? Because it does come to me often, and I just want to kind of help and discover and grab as much information as possible, because you guys are volunteers. And I think it's important that the town has some sort of accountability in this in terms of making sure that we got all the details.
Yeah, those are great points. In fact, one of our items tonight is data collection for housing needs. That's kind of a catch-all for everything. So it covers sort of the first kind of topics you were talking about and the last topic you talked about, and dovetails with the website a little bit. So we are going to start a concerted effort to bring all that information together. Any help you can provide would be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we considered putting it out there? Like, if you want this, please contact Human Services or Housing Board, or however you want. I mean, I'd be more than happy to collect the data, because it really is something that is bubbling up into my role like daily.
Yeah. So that would be a great way to do it, because we have an issue of security and confidentiality. So going through you might be one of the best solutions we can have.
I think so.
Yeah. So
Safe.
In the safe. One of the problems we have, and that's why we made our website proposal in a 2-phase, the second phase being security. We just wanted to get the thing up and running without the security, because the security seemed to be a big bugaboo for us. So the question is, get this data, how do you keep it secure? So we are not going to collect that data initially. And we did think the problem was overstated because it could be kept on a computer that is off the internet or, on a drive or something like that. So,
So I asked about, because of this issue, I asked if the housing board could have a newshoreham.gov email to receive information. I don't know what the issue is there, but anyway, if this is a perfect opportunity where it can go, and we can bypass anything new.
And I haven't obviously run this by Amy yet. This has been something that's just been captured in my daily activities. So I would obviously need to circle back and make sure that that's okay. But my office is a confidential space, honestly. I deal with a lot of different things. Housing the least confidential out of all of them. So I think what I will do is take this back and talk with Millie and Amy and see if it's even feasible for me to do. But I do get the calls. Add me to the list. Can you put me on the list? And I literally just left somebody who asked.
Yeah.
So
It turns out we do have a list that I talked to. Did
Yes, so I.
Cindy talk to you? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the clerk's office has a list. It's been being compiled since like 2019, I think.
okay.
There was a survey. There is actually a form out in.
I saw the survey. I have that. I
Right.
just didn't know if there were names or.
There were. We
Okay.
have probably over 100 names on the
Okay.
list. So if people ask you, you can just run it by me and I'll see. if
Let's
they-
talk tomorrow.
Yeah, they're already on the list because chances are they are, and the list is just, it's more for survey purposes than. for-
Understood. Yep.
So we take their name and their email addresses and we check, purchases versus rent and that kind of thing, but,
And we need to update it, and there's some overlap with other developments.
Correct.
So we just, hopefully we can get cooperation from everybody and put together a comprehensive list, and we can all chip away at it.
And that's kind of where I was, I think I was here early on and about 2 months ago saying like, can we collaborate with the bed board? And, I think it's just really important. I think that the monitoring entity is key right now.
Yeah, so let me go back to that. So I just heard about this for the first time today. But it may be a legal requirement for us to have a monitoring agency
It
for
will.
any developments we do. And it can't be us. So right now, we are performing that duty at excuse me, what's the? Cherry Hill. Sort of the monitoring of things. Like, yeah, I know that's so, but we're not supposed to be doing it.
Correct. So I, as a town employee, made a cold call to a woman by the name of Melina Lodge, and she is the monitoring entity for the state and through Rhode Island Housing. We discussed in great detail about the obstacles with having the private entity with the affordable housing and then the municipality entity. Towns are really required to set this up. Unfortunately, the nonprofit were not required to do that. So therefore, there isn't any. And that for me and what I get is probably one of the biggest red flags. And the way it was described to me is if, for instance, if there's a 30-year deed restriction, when an heir or successor takes over the first right of refusal, the 30 years starts over. But there's no entity monitoring if, let's just say tomorrow, someone wanted to sell their house for 1.3 million, they could, because there's no repercussions.
So that's an interesting point too. I'm completely speaking, I don't understand this yet, but we have a document, the housing board has a document that defines resale terms, but it's a bit, from what I understand, it's not really rigorous. So we need to work on that as well. So this will be part of the whole thing.
And the woman that I spoke to is willing to come out here and
Okay.
educate everybody.
Right.
She's out of Warwick. She's a bright light and she really gets it. And I'm hoping that we could bring a nonprofit entity to the table as well in hopes to acquire her because it's not too late. And she could come in and offer her services to the nonprofit. And then that way we have kind of collaborated unity around this issue.
And that'll dovetail with a discussion about church later too. But yeah, those are great points.
Okay.
Thank
I
you
just
very
want,
much.
thank you for giving me the time. It's been on my mind and I wanted to come say hi to you guys.
Great. Thank you. And nice to meet you. So I would like to make a motion to, and this will be a bit complicated, but I would like to make a motion to move item number 13 up after item 4 and subsume items 5, 6, and 7 into 13. And essentially what it's doing is putting stuff that should be, when we talk about Ball O'Brien, it's putting stuff that should be under Ball O'Brien into that category. I have a second. All in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, our next agenda item is act to approve minutes from January 28th and January 25th. I mean, February 25th, sorry. So I will make a motion to approve those. Has everyone reviewed?
Just have a very, very minor stuff on capitalization, fidelity. Just, it always should be capitalized and we don't have to reapprove the minutes. We can approve them just for that change.
Okay, yeah. So second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, item number 3 is review and approve financial reports. I will make a motion to approve the financial reports. All in favor? Aye. Okay. So Chris, would you like to wait on item 4 until Rosemary gets here, or do you want to go right into the contract, the website contract?
I think we could go on. She and I met. I emailed her today to see if she had read the responses back, and she has not. So she doesn't know the latest information. Well, she should know it, but she hasn't had time to. It's up to you. I don't care. It may be courtesy to do that. You're right. Why not?
Okay, so I'll make a motion move item 4 after new Ball O'Brien. All in favor? Aye. Okay, Ball O'Brien property update. So let's start with the trunk line. Things are in place. Bain is out there doing some work. He's been given a deposit, and so the trunk line is underway. We are going to have, we were supposed to have a site visit with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, but the boats were canceled that day. So I think, Josh, you're going to have it by phone?
Yeah. I spoke to Bain. Said that cameras are free out. Scheduled by.
Okay, and then we both need to be on Bain about updating some terms of the contract. We had signed a contract, but then Amy wanted us to make some adjustments to it, and so I did that. I gave Bain the places where he needed to fill in the blanks, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet. So you should if you bother him, and I'll bother him, and yeah. Yeah, just, and I've touched him up a couple of times, so, yeah, okay. Okay, next is discuss and act on sending the Ball O'Brien RFP to Beans Modular Homes. Josh, what's the status of that?
So as far as, I've spoken to Connecticut Valley, and they are revisiting their whole quote. It's been a year and a half since they put that, so obviously, no matter what, things change.
Sure.
I mentioned our interest in possibly doing this phases. And to have them kind of approach their pricing to see if there was increase or things the same. I spoke to, I can't remember the guy's name, at Avalon Buildings as well, with the exact same conversation. So both of those companies are working on reviving. Get them back to me, I'll send them out. And then I spoke to Mark Bean at Bean's Modular Homes. So that's the company that did the West Side 20. And they were interested, but he wanted the RFP, which I didn't think I could send him without approval. So I just told him after this meeting, I could send it out. I don't know if there's any benefit or not to putting it out to a third party, other than maybe we'll get something savings, maybe we can offer a better deal.
Yeah, I don't see a downside.
The public document. Right? Yeah.
Is it public?
Yeah.
Okay.
It would have to be. So you could release that. You could take a look at it.
All right. Well, then in that case, I'll send it on to him, and I don't even know if it's in their wheelhouse. Just looking at their website, do modular homes, do they do duplexes? He didn't really answer that, so pick it over to him.
Chris, do you want to do an update on the Fidelity grant, or is there anything to update there?
Yeah, I've been keep going through the Fidelity grant. And, every time I go to it, they're asking for something else. The latest was a strategic plan, and we don't have one. So I drafted a strategic plan specifically for this grant, and I sent it out to you folks today. And if we can discuss this soon, it would be very helpful. It looks bad that it doesn't look great that we don't have a strategic plan, I think. So having one makes us, more seeming to have a mission and a goal. And so I drafted one, and it is before you. And other than that, I just continue on going through the Fidelity grant website and adding things. I actually almost got everything done.
Great. So,
On the second, it was attached to an email with something else. It's here's ours.
yeah, and so take a look at it. A strategic plan can be a lot of things. This one's geared toward the Fidelity. I think it's a good idea for us to have one regardless of the grant, and it's a lot of the same stuff will be on the website just to get our message out there. So this is a good first step. I know Jerry Noonan has also put some thought into that. So we can combine the efforts, we can combine the documents, but yeah, just take a look at the thing that Chris sent out, and we can go from there. But let him know whether you have comments or not, so that he is aware that people have looked at it, and for the purposes of the Fidelity grant, it's good to go, or we have comments on it for the grant purposes.
It's 5 pages, I think, or 4 pages. 3 pages. It's 3 pages.
So a couple more things on Ball O'Brien. First is a meeting that Chris and I had with Church Community Housing or Homes. I don't know which it is, CCH. And it was a good meeting. They requested some additional information from us related to the deficiencies in our Rhode Island housing application, some more design details on Ball O'Brien, and we provided that information, and they are going to give us a proposal. It is not clear exactly how extensive the proposal will be. However, I think it's going to be everything from helping us reapply to Rhode Island housing, as well as managing the effort for us and being sort of this monitoring agency. That was my sort of understanding of the conversation. Because that's what they do in a lot of properties on the mainland. So anyway, we will see what they come up with it for a proposal.
Interesting information that would be helpful for housing would know is that they have 150 projects currently in construction. They have different ways of bringing funding to this project than Sokoloff and Associates. Some is the same, but they have different mechanisms that they use that Sokoloff doesn't like to use, apparently. I was really impressed with Kristen, the CEO of that place, working on that Zeos grant, and that's how we made that connection. There's something else there that was important.
This is Church Community Housing, I think. We've talked about them in the past, but this is sort of and Chris has been handling it mostly, and then I was on the call with them most recently.
Yeah. Another important thing that came out was, we gave them the pro forma and told them, look, this is kind of pie in the sky right now, brainstorming. But they did say it was very important for us to get town support. If we got town support, they said our chances of getting funding through Rhode Island housing, or et cetera, was going to be significantly higher. So I just thought, this is something that I think, as we go on to the other agenda items on this specifically, needs to be conveyed to the town council.
That's something that we'll put in writing.
I don't know. We could ask.
My impression is they would.
We should do that.
Right.
Council.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Get them to give it to us before we have to move forward. Okay, along those lines, so Cindy had a meeting today with Jim Comer, I think is his name, from Rhode Island Housing. And the meeting was, just to discuss generally what happened with our grant and whether it's worth going through this again. And I guess his impression or his what he relayed to Cindy is that yes, we shouldn't give up. He is actually willing to come out here and look at the site and talk to us. So that's good. Along those lines, I had a separate meeting with Jen from zoning and Amy with Rhode Island Housing, with the Secretary of Housing, because they're talking about their affordable housing goals, and they're going city by city, town by town, and we were the first ones they came back to talk to. The new Secretary of Housing was on that call, and I told her our experience with our grant. It's been rejected a couple times, and the rationale we've been given is that it's too small and too expensive per unit. And she asked what the what the bids were, and I told her, and she said, no, those aren't too expensive, and it's not too small. So she offered, this meeting was about a separate topic, but she offered to have a follow-up meeting to further discuss this. So she is Comer's boss, so so it might start to dovetail nicely. No, that was specifically, yeah, it was so Cindy was on they didn't say that to us in writing. It was on the phone call after we received our rejection that Cindy had a call and was briefed on why it was rejected. And those are the two,
About population.
right, right,
Like, we had
right.
people, we're not gonna build a,
Yeah.
1,000-unit affordable housing.
right. And in this meeting that I was on, they focused a little bit on, well, it was about the statewide goals for affordable housing. And they noted that we're short of our 10% goal. And the secretary said, look, this single project will get you to the 10%. So it should be really important for us as well as it is for you. So it was an optimistic, but she's also new to the job. So she's probably just absorbing everything. But so I don't want to get. So Comer said what
Things.
Yeah, what Chris has said recently and what Comer reaffirmed today is that there is going to be a new round of money. So, so anyway, with church and with this meeting that will come up, it all could be helpful and come together at the right time. So,
I think it's all about timing, and if we're not in when the timing happens, then we'll, I think we should be in every time,
yes.
It is all about timing. They might be like, oh, we have an extra 300,000. Oh, we can throw it towards that project. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's all about timing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was director of engineering for a large company, that's it, the company wasn't too good. But one thing I didn't realize is that even companies that aren't too good will be successful at least 10% of the time.
Yeah.
So that I came away from that job with that.
The number of things.
Yeah, and just being there, just
Yeah.
showing up.
And I also think if we don't show up again, we don't look like we're serious. We tried when we did good work, but all government.
So speaking of that, the next thing related to Ball Bryan is the town warrant. I have, we voted on it last time and we voted to go forward. In sidebar discussions with various people, they've been pessimistic about our chances, which we specifically discussed last time. It's good to put it forward for a vote anyway. So I just put it on the agenda again to make sure that we didn't want to revisit that. I am not going to make a motion to revisit it, but I just want to discuss it if anyone wants to. As of now, though, we are going to be on the schedule either for next week or the following week to present the project to the town council.
In the garden today, I had this epiphany about funding and where it comes from. And so, and I communicated it to you, just that we actually are not Block Island taxpayers supported. In my opinion, we are tourism base supported through a tax on tourists who come out and use seasonal rentals. It's administered by homeowners or business owners, some who are residents, voters, etc., some who are not. But we actually are not taxing the Block Island homeowner. The money we get are up to $200,000 that's coming from tourists. And so I think we should really communicate that to the town council, that and what Church Community Housing said, the town itself supporting us will have, basically we leverage that money to gain more support. Without that money, we are not seen as attractive. And it's good faith effort by the town if they do put this warrant on the ballot, let the taxpayers, decide that gives us a lot more mojo, for lack of better language, to have a chance.
Yeah, so along those lines, I'm putting together a presentation for that, for those purposes. I think it will be scheduled before our next meeting. Um, I guess how can we handle that? Does any, Millie's not here, so she can't give us the rules, but can I just, that's my question. Do we need a special meeting or can I just distribute what I've done and receive? So, so it doesn't need to be voted on. It just needs, it's already been voted on. Okay.
We can make
Suggested.
suggestions, could edit or.
Okay,
And
so,
what's the downside of having it on the ballot? Was Millie worried about, last time was she worried about just kind of like good, like our, getting mud in our face kind of?
yes, you know, I think the issue was, you don't want to get a no. So, and now might not be the best time to do it. So, so don't do it if you might get a no. I don't feel that way. I feel like, it's good to expose the project to both the town council and the community. And like we just said with Rhode Island Housing, don't give up. We can go back. But that's my view.
I agree with that.
The way Amy has presented similar warrants, or warrants in the past, where we go to the taxpayer, like, I'll say the fiber project. When you put it into the tax base and it's amortized over as many years as this would be, it's almost negligible on your taxes. And again, I said in the past, I don't like the idea of socializing things like this. You know, socializing a lot of things in which the town has done. But this is such an exception to me because this is an island-wide problem. And I think many, many people will benefit. Homeowners who are, let's say, for lack of a better words, exclusive, will now possibly have access to more labor, teachers, you know, school, fire department, whatever, town resources to help them through their time on Block Island. I just think it's a win for the island if we can create more stable housing.
Okay, so like I said, I'm not going to make a motion not to do it. So but I wanted to discuss it. And as of now, we have voted that we're going to move forward with it. Okay. No change. So we deferred the website discussion until you got here. That's all right. No, but that's important. When do you open?
We got a lot of interest, but only 3 proposals. And we reviewed them and we asked some questions. And I think we can recommend that one.
I feel we could, but
I do.
I didn't know if you had time.
No, I
to read it.
saw.
You did.
So Chris and I met and to go over it, and one of the proposals we both liked, but I had questions on the pricing because they had things done by hourly. And I was a little bit worried that if we made calls, they would charge us hourly and all that. But we asked them the specific questions that we had problems with, and they answered them, and I was very happy with the answers. And they answered quickly, which was important too, because we obviously want someone to be on call for us. And they were the proposal that was mid-price point. There was a higher one and a lower one.
Nope, they're the lowest one.
Oh, they're the lowest one?
Yep.
And they're more local, meaning not West Coast. They're in New York based. They have 2 locations, New York and
South
South Carolina. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
We
they're,
recommend that one.
yeah, their pricing, we'll discuss numbers, is approximately $8,000. And it's 2,000, remember, it's $2,400 annual hosting with security, ADA, all the things that we had asked for.
Some of the stipulations that we needed because we're a town entity did increase the price a little bit. So we noticed that in all the proposals.
Yeah.
So,
I had estimated 5,000, which was too low.
Yeah.
These people came in just under 8. Yes.
yeah, I was worried about all that hourly and I was like, if we call them, are they gonna,
A
They
lot of the
answered the
add-ons
questions.
were not applicable
yeah, we didn't need them.
unless we went for them, but the idea was they are going to teach us how to do some of the minor stuff. And I had that in my own website where the person taught me to do these things extremely easy. Some of this almost automated now through WordPress. You just tell WordPress, go do this, and it will. So anyway,
All three of them used WordPress, obviously, so that wasn't an issue deciding on that, but
so that would be my recommendation. And it
My
looks like Rosemary and I
recommendation.
think the same way on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, so do we want to make a motion to approve that and award it?
yeah,
Subject to final contract, written contract.
yeah.
We have to go back to them.
Right, so on that note, what I learned with Bain's contract is it's not as simple as I was led to believe. So I think a good thing there is to get some guidance from Amy and get a standard contract that they've used.
Okay.
And I'm happy, it's going to come up here soon. I'm happy handing it over to our attorney and paying a little bit of money to our attorney to make sure it's right. Because I did it with the bit. Yeah, it's a lot of money and I did it with Bain's effort. I made the modifications and I'm not qualified to be doing it, frankly. So, so I'd rather just have the
And
attorney.
it covers us legally.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
Mhm.
Good with us and but
Yeah.
kind of surprised Bain didn't have one. Did we write that contract and give it to him?
So we used the contract, we started with the contract that we used with Bain in our last project, which was very short. Subsequent to that, the town has done work with Bain and the contract was much more extensive. And that's what Amy preferred is the more extensive contract. Yeah, right. I know. So that's the new one. So that's what I just get her guidance, I think. And then we'll give it to the lawyer to finalize and go from there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their timeline was good too, so it'll be,
It's fine, it's fine.
we did the bids, so they found
Yeah.
us.
This isn't this isn't
Yeah.
the person you recommended? I thought.
No,
No,
yeah, I thought this looks great. I mean,
We got, I would say we got like 10
I thought
people that
less.
said they were gonna do proposals, but then we only really got 3 from the, for the deadline.
Person I recommended didn't bid. No.
So who's going to make that motion? I don't know the name of the company exactly. So-
Visionary. So I'll make the recommendation,
You're
the
very good
motion.
motion.
Motion to award the website phase 1 development contract to Visionary subsequent to approved town to Shoreham contract language.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? There you have it.
It's gonna be
it's
good.
exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting.
Good.
And I mean, with all of that, hopefully when we have to educate people about what's going on and what they are voting for, we can use that,
Yeah, it's gonna be a huge tool.
Yeah, I just feel like, things get talked about and wrong information gets, handed on, and for someone to be able to just go themselves to something direct. This is what our goal is, this is what we're doing, this is what you're voting.
I think it's also important that we tell the other 2 bidders that they did not receive, they were not awarded the contract. And usually the language is, however, you know, we will keep you in mind if
Mhm.
things
Thank you
change.
for bidding and.
And if things change, we'll be back in contact with you.
Okay, the next agenda item is discuss and act on data collection for housing needs. So we discussed a little bit already about this in the public input. Allison has, I don't want to say volunteered because she's got some things to, well, we don't want to overload her and we want to make sure Millie and, yeah. So I think there's many pieces to this. One is to collect the data that we already have. So Keisha has said we have a bunch of data. We also, yep, Cindy sent the email, yeah. Yes,
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
pretty outdated.
yeah. And some of the other housing organizations have names as well. And we have our questionnaire from several years back. We might want to um, do another questionnaire and discuss how we put that out there, what venues we use. Whether, you know, Cindy even said maybe you can set up a table outside the the BIG or the library.
Back up a little bit before we start. You and I have talked about this, I know, because housing, I feel like we need to have like a housing seminar with all the housing people.
Please.
That's why I came today.
Yeah.
I'm uncovering some things. We talked about monitoring entity, and how a little bit uncomfortable it is, and also about the voting thing. If we don't have a strong bond with the private nonprofit, we're going to lose trust of the community that these projects, not only one, will go forward, but also two, that it's fair, that we're monitoring it. And that anxiety is very real. And I have that coming to me as a perception. And it is really important. And I mentioned you should have Marguerite from Mary D because she pays bills. You should have homeowners associations here from West Side 20. The bed board should be here. Just get them all together.
Yeah.
And what is the downside of that is what I would ask the bed board. They really should come to the table because there is a lot that needs to be fixed. They may know it. And I think that bringing this to a vote this early on is not wise because I think, again, the community support is, well, this is the way it was supposed to be run over here and it wasn't run that way. And that monitoring entity, it comes back to the deed restrictions and the things that have gone on. And it's a whisper campaign around it. I agree with you. If you had it in one spot where people could, it was a trusted go-to resource.
Explaining.
It changes the game, but it's not, it's the infrastructure is completely broken in this community when it comes to that other side of things. And amazing work. Congratulations. Thank you for all you've done. But can we rein it back a little bit, build the infrastructure that we need to support it as an entirety on this island? And it's troublesome, and it is a community-wide problem that if they don't come and talk and collaborate, then we will not have the trust of the community because, well, we did it this way, and this is not everyone's following the rules, and there's vacancies left and right for 9 months at a time. And, you know, I had someone come to me who's a very important person in this community who's losing her housing. If we lose her, we are so done. So she needs housing. And all I could think of is all these empty spots that are sitting there breaking the rules. And so we have to, something like that has to happen.
When you're talking about, like, are you more talking about like the housing over here next to Ball O'Brien? Or are you talking about?
I'm talking
the
West Side
accessory
20.
apartments? Are you talking about everywhere?
I'm talking about everywhere. It
And I don't even know, West Side 20 was like its own thing.
The problem is that the housing board is not,
municipality.
it's not in charge of all of those because they were all
Right.
done separately.
Mhm.
Like that form that we talked about the last meeting where you go and you see what project is attached to which housing. And I mean, it's normal for that to happen in a town
Yep.
because when it was needed, some people got together and they developed bed, and that was really great for a long time.
Amazing.
Then that sort of, had to needed more. So then the housing board came along because it was needed. Then this other thing, the private thing that's giving people loans is needed too. So, but I do feel like in order for us to move forward in a successful way and to look like a united front for the one goal of housing, we all need to communicate. Like, and when we do communicate, it can be explained what each one does to all of the people that are going to be making decisions whether to give us money or not. I mean, like, some people don't even know what the housing 1% tax is still, and they don't know why they're giving the money.
And they think it's voluntary.
Yeah.
Yes, and
So
I,
there's all these things that I feel like, and we've talked about this so many times, but I don't know. I think maybe we could work with Allison in organizing that, where we have an outline so it doesn't become just a meeting where everyone's talking about stuff.
and
or-
I think the state will pay more attention to us if we kind of have it all together, because right now it's in piecemeal. And this one's talking to that one, the other one's talking from someone to town. When I made these calls this week, I literally prayed to the Lord up
Yeah.
high and I said, please already be talking to someone from Block Island. And I will eat my hat and I'll be so happy. But guess what? 2 out of the 3, well, one of the entity person had been in contact with Cindy, but the other 2, nope, I don't know any, I haven't heard. And no one could trace the context of how Rhode Island Housing was involved in West Side 20, and I couldn't get any history. And I could do it here, but my questions are intentional to find out like what is going on and where's your support and why aren't you guys coming out here and why don't we have more of you? So I think just it will help all around if the communication and we get everybody in one room. Again, homeowners association, charitable donations that go into putting money into these oil bills and things like that. People really need to know how much it is to live out here in the winter. This winter was brutal. So just, and I don't want to belabor my point, but it's
No,
really
no.
important.
But you think that we should do all of that before we go to the town for this warrant? Is that what your view is?
I think that we need to fix the infrastructure for affordable housing and low income housing before we do anything. At least put it on a ballot. I don't think you could go, and I do think town council would appreciate data and informed so that we're all on the same page. That's just my personal thought. I think they would appreciate a collective, not piecemeal. Like in 2019, we had 100 people sign up and now we've got 10 and we got 2 vacancies, but they're not filled yet. I think they would appreciate something like that in a presentation. I know I would. And I'm just some person that sits behind a desk over here, but
I just don't know if we have the authority. I don't know.
we don't have
to make
authority.
that happen,
We don't have
or
authority.
we just request it as the housing board from each entity.
I think that's what it
Give us an
is.
Update on what your situation is, and I don't know how to do that. I mean, I feel like it has to be a regular meeting, not just one, but that's a whole different ballgame. But maybe just, I don't know.
I think an agenda set up of how did you guys do it? How did you set it up? What is your monitoring system? And then we all come together and learn from what they did and also learn from the mistakes.
But that's a problem. There really isn't a monitoring system with any of this organization.
Well, I
We
have
talked
to
about
say
it.
Cherry Hill did learn, I think.
Yeah.
I wasn't on the board for that, but we have a lot of stipulations in our.
Because we learn from mistakes.
because
Correct.
They learn from mistakes,
Yeah.
so we are moving. in
And the
that
lady
direction.
that I talked to from the monitoring entity is well aware of 3 properties that she manages from that perspective. But again, there's nothing that says nonprofit. And it's just growing frustration for,
We have frustration with that too.
We're a
because
housing
we're the housing board,
association,
and we
though.
don't have anything to do with bed that did so many of them. We don't have anything, we'd like to.
Mary Jane did West Side 20 and that like left, I mean, so that wasn't really under
Yeah.
one of those.
Well, but there's restrictions there. There's
There-
deed
well,
restrictions.
Yeah, but it's not under.
Any.
And
No one's monitoring it.
Well,
That's the problem.
Organization to monitor it. They were supposed to monitor themselves, I think.
And I think that's the inherent problem, is that
Exactly.
so all I'm saying is, I think a good start personally is to see if they're willing to meet with us. Myself included. I just got an updated list of all the members on the board. And I think that we just need to have a real good idea of what it is we want to get out of that meeting. And if we can figure that out, then we can have a productive meeting and say, hey, would you be willing to work with a monitoring entity that we've brought to the table? Or I can bring that woman out who basically is explained to me about the anxiety we're creating around this by not talking to each other and not monitoring it, because somebody could sell it for a cool million. And
So what?
so what?
So what?
Let's say West Side 20.
I don't.
Without
I think
any-
There are some things in
They
place.
can't, but there's no monitoring.
Yeah, but I don't think they can't. I mean, they did just
But they
recently.
There is,
sell
but-
They
houses.
got federal money, so with the federal, they got federal money, so they can only use the percentage of that. And other people have tried and they weren't successful.
Mhm. I'm just saying, perhaps this woman can come out and educate everybody
Yeah.
and say why it's so important. And then that will prove to the public that we're all working together, this is what we're doing, and we're gonna move forward. And then the support comes back behind it, if you ask me. I could be
Yeah,
wrong.
so I agree 100% with doing this. I guess my question is, I don't think it can happen before
Right.
May 5th.
Yeah.
So do we delay that?
I don't think you delay it.
Yeah, I think we can redo it once we have this.
So I don't even know. I think I've talked to the town a few times, the town council, about having a position with the town for housing that would feed off of this situation.
The
I think
more,
I talked about it in one of our meetings.
Yep.
With Conservancy, when I was on BIC, we realized there was too much to do when we started doing the things we were doing. So we ended up hiring someone to do the things that we needed to do that were important for what we were doing. And maybe that's the stage we're in. Because if Bed doesn't want to take care of Bed properties anymore, it would make sense for us to monitor that. But we'd need someone as a job doing it. We're not gonna obviously. do
who's
it.
in charge?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like with BIC, we hired someone for 20 hours a week, and then we realized we needed it 40 hours a week. So I don't know, I know we're a town entity, so it's different than BIC, but I feel like that's some sort of direction we should be going in. And I don't even know if it's our choice to go in that direction or not.
I
don't know.
agree with you, and I don't know either, but I 100% agree with
Yeah.
you, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Well, and by the way, I would be willing, well, it's huge.
Yeah.
I'm already doing it and I hear it all the time. I just think that we need to know who's in charge and where to go, and
If it's that important to our community.
Correct.
Then there should be someone that is monitoring it and making
Yes.
sure that it is up to par.
And-
Especially when there's federal money involved, state
Mhm.
money involved, town money involved, and
Mhm.
all those things. There's gotta be someone looking at that,
Yes.
so that's just.
I
think we're
totally,
on the same
I
page.
totally agree. It is, the more I'm in it, the
I don't know
more
how
I
we move
agree.
forward That way. Do we
Well,
go
that
to
could be a
town council?
discussion
Do we?
for this group meeting if they propose it.
Yeah. I don't think Bed, and I don't know, I'm not quite sure if they wanna keep doing
Are they?
what they're doing.
Are they still?
They are, but I don't know, and that's the thing.
And I
need
agree,
to
I don't
talk.
know. I don't know if they are either. I just, again, it's more whispers. I'm trying to collect as much data as I can first before I go to them. And I have another call tomorrow with
Yeah.
somebody that.
And it's not like we're taking things away from anyone,
No.
we're just trying to organize it and funnel it down one,
Yes,
Yes.
you
Yep.
know, so that everyone knows you know, not like that bed should stop doing what they're doing or whatever, but when they do it, they work with this person or the town. To,
Correct.
you know, make sure it's covered or,
Bed's not doing anything new. I think
no,
what we have to deal with is Bed's legacy
yes,
and see how they want to hand it off.
yes.
Because they're not, they're not rejuvenating their
No.
board or anything like that. So their legacy, they're going to
Yeah.
time out. So I think the approach is, how would you like to hand off Bed?
What, yeah.
And
I
thank,
think-
and thank you for all your hard work and
Exactly.
everything.
None of this would have happened without them.
Correct.
That group did so much for housing up
Yes.
here. It's incredible.
They started
It
all
is.
this, and they started this need,
Yes,
you know. for
I
housing,
agree.
all of it.
I agree 100%. So thank you. I'm so,
I don't know how to move into that.
Passionate
so
about it.
we
I
need
don't
to figure
either.
it out.
It's also big, my understanding is the properties over there need a lot of work too.
We need to
That-
figure out how to make it a job.
Yeah.
I
Right,
don't know how else to say it, because if it's that important to our community, it should be the focus of someone.
Right.
That, you know, it's their job to do that.
and this woman who offered to come out could help us figure that out.
she is willing to help. I sent her an afterthought note that just said, just out of curiosity, if that was something that we needed out here for that private entity. What's the cost? What's the business side of it? How does it look? Baseline only? What does that look like? She hasn't gotten back to me yet, but, like I said, I'm continuing down a trail. Tomorrow, I'm speaking with somebody who is from Rhode Island Housing, who's in charge of policy and legislature.
Hmm.
So I just, again, this was more of a data finding kind of thing, so I could present it to everybody because I know the struggle and I'm hearing it from every side.
Can't we ask the state for money for the person?
Well,
Yeah.
I did ask her from the entity side. I said, and if so, is there a grant I can apply for to pay for it? So
Yeah.
I just think that, again, it just needs a little massaging. Everyone needs to come to the table and, something has to be done. There's
Great
no
Things are happening, it just needs to be, we all need
organized.
to be going down the same path.
I
Yes.
think as far as like the current list goes too, we're more, as far as I know, because I was on the list for a long time.
Mhm.
We are waiting to have more to go on. I think before finalizing like who would be on the list, because we weren't even sure where the money was gonna come from and who would actually qualify, and so it was hard to,
I think a
Update
list is
that.
so down the road,
yeah.
I feel like,
I mean, people can
It-
certainly like,
I know town council would like a list.
Yeah.
I know they would.
people need it.
But I think that, right, but I also think that all of these things that we're talking about, showing that
Yeah.
we've got, what's together, I think it'll kind of move the needle a little bit further and quicker. I mean, look, you could find out that there's all these places that are not being used year round, and we could fill some of the holes in and decide, you know what, maybe this money goes towards fixing up whatever needs. I don't know. I don't know the answer. I'm
When they
just,
first talked, if someone rented year round, they would get a tax break. There was talk about that at one point. So those are all things that can still be part of.
yeah, but I'm talking about affordable housing that sits vacant for 9 months out of the year.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It's not fun for people who are coming to me and telling me, and they don't like to be telling me, and I'm keeping their names private, but I think it's such an injustice to what we're trying to do here, especially when I have somebody that's very important to this island in tears because she might not have housing. And if we lose that person,
Yeah.
we are not in a good place. So
Yeah.
I've,
So-
killed the horse.
One final question. Is this meeting with this woman from, I don't know what organization she's from. but-
She's Rhode Island Housing.
Rhode Island
She's the
Housing.
monitoring
Okay.
entity.
So should this meeting be an invite from us to these other organizations saying she's coming to talk to us about this, or should it come from you to all of the? Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. I would be more than happy to breach and bridge the gap. I will hide behind everybody in this room on an email. And then if I'm not getting a response, I will certainly make a call. I think after I talk to this woman tomorrow about policy and legislature, what's that?
You'll know.
I'll know more. And I have one other person, Josh Berry. Has anyone heard of him?
Yeah.
So I'm talking to him next week. So with all three of these different people, I think it's part of my data collecting so I can kind of understand what I want to present and what my ask is.
But I think we need to reach out to these other organizations and see if they're on the same page as we are. You know, because it
Yeah.
won't do any good if they're not.
I just don't know who to reach out to. I don't know
We
who.
reach out to BED, we reach out to the West Side 20, we reach out to, you know,
I
the
know.
organization, the
But-
other, we reach out to them and say, this is what our idea is. We really need to collaborate.
But I don't know any of the folks in like.
Oh, no, we'll get it. We'll get it all and we'll write. I think we can collaborate on an email and get it out and I have no problem helping it.
Yeah.
This is our thoughts. Are you on the same page? If it is, then let's figure out a way to work this out,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay, we can start there. I'll be in touch with you guys over email in the next like 2 weeks and we can kind of go from there, but
Perfect.
something has to shift.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we've been talking about it for a long time.
Right.
And I think, you know, now is the time to do it because if we're gonna be asking, you know, we need to be able to talk about what we're doing.
Right.
And all be together in it.
Yeah.
Kumbaya.
For the community's
Yeah,
sake, really.
And
Right.
it is confusing. To explain to someone.
it
which
is.
one Which and which one does which and, you know, which one do you go for, which one do you don't go for and.
Hmm. Yeah.
The website will help a lot with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Okay, next item is discuss and act on council retention agreement with Pervage, who has moved to a new firm. This is kind of a, yeah, so this new firm is at is Mead, Tellerman and Costa. So I think,
Stay with him.
yeah, so I think we're just going to stay with him.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a
Well, he
formality
has a
to,
connection to the island and-
yeah.
Yeah.
So can I have a motion to approve this agreement with Pervage at his new firm?
I make a motion. Yeah, he's our attorney and
Yeah,
he's moving.
We are
Uh,
retaining
company.
his services at
Okay.
this new firm. Yes, yeah.
I make a motion. He's moving. We're sticking with him.
I don't understand. I don't understand this. Hold on.
So Pervage, the attorney we've worked for,
Yeah.
worked with,
Yeah, yeah.
has moved to a different firm.
Okay.
He's at this new firm, Mead, Tellerman and Costa.
Okay.
So I sent before the last meeting, we sent the agreement out for people to look at.
Okay.
It's a standard one pager.
I didn't get this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we just want to approve it and so he can still do stuff for us. So we have a motion. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Chris, you've already touched on the pro forma. Do you want to touch on it anymore or?
I just would say that, for Fidelity, I'm going to let them know that what our assumptions in the pro forma. And this is what we're hoping to achieve, because they want to see our path to financial stability and, sustainability. So that pro forma gives us that. And I'll give them all the caveats. Look, this is what we're trying to do. This is, in motion. And this put us in this position. And that's all I can do.
Okay, that sounds good. Number 11 is discuss and act on potential new revenue generation. So what I'll say about this is that the town council did not vote to endorse a couple of pieces of legislation that would have helped us. Their rationale based on Amy's recommendation is that neither of the pieces of legislation were ripe. That's my word. So they did not endorse the legislation. I think they'll maybe revisit it at a future meeting. One of the ones that, actually both, that were pieces that we recommended to the town council that they support. And in particular, there was one that would give the town the ability to give all towns the ability to tax up to 2% on conveyances. So when someone sells a property, you could tax up to 2%.
Over 900,000.
Say again?
Over 900,000?
Over 900,000, yeah. The details are, yeah. Yeah. So that was disappointing to me, but other than those pieces of legislation, I don't know what other new potential revenue generation we have. So any thoughts?
One thing I keep going back to is what other towns are doing in this situation that we're in with housing and land trusts. And they morph both entities into a community land trust. And that would increase our funding, considerably, because instead of all the 3% going to conserve land, a percentage would be going to affordable housing. And that's how a lot of communities are approaching this problem. I think we should have a discussion on that in the future. But to me, that is one of the clearest ways that I've seen it
Thank you,
being
Alex.
done and
Thank you.
successfully done, is a reforming into a community land trust.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think we should hold that for future discussion. Yeah.
The town,
Yeah.
I went to the town land trust and Joe Priestley read the initial language. Then I took out their rules and regulations and read them back to him. And the very last thing is they could do anything if they go to the town council. Your question, would they do this? Highly unlikely, but the town council can tell them to do this. So it's, the state, their opinion that we cannot change, we have to be like this is how we were formed. It's poppycock. And so when you actually do read it, and I read it back to the attorney, nobody disagreed. And I was like, if I hadn't gone through all that, that's why I sent all that information to you folks too. So you understand that position. I don't think they're going to go for it willingly, but I think there's a lot of pressure on the land trust. And I think maybe this is a good time to have a conversation. They did agree to meet with us, planning, and the town council at some date unspecified. So.
Yeah, so I think we push this off for future discussion. The 2% tax would have been one of the opportunities to, I don't know. Well, let's wait for a future discussion. Okay, number 12, I'm going to make a motion to continue that to another meeting. But if you have any questions about that's an agenda item I put on there. And if you read our statute, it gives us a lot of authority to figure out what's going on with our tax, up to and including doing audits. So this is I have on here a lot of words, but it's essentially, are we getting what we're supposed to be getting?
Just another thing that person could do.
Yes. Yes. Right.
Monitor that.
Yes.
That's what we'd have to figure out. I mean, with
Right.
BMC, we just took it out of our budget. As a part-time position, and then it became part of our budget, and it was fine.
It seems like that position would be, they're gonna be managing more than just housing board business. That
Mhm.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be the housing board paying for it. It should be a town funded position.
Well, it depends on what they decide we are in charge of. Like, if they do hand things over to us to be monitored, to be in charge of, then as a board, obviously, we're a volunteer board, we need someone to hire to monitor the things that we're now in charge of. So it all depends on how that collaboration goes. Are we gonna be, I feel like there should be one person for all of it, Cyril's ball, bed.
Yeah.
All of it, so that
Same standard.
someone has one person to go to, they know what's going on with everything. And they're like, instead of, oh, you gotta call so-and-so for that one, you gotta call so-and-so for, you know what I mean? I feel like it's a needed position and finding the money, you know, like if I were paying my 1%, I knew it was an easy thing, I'd be happy that my 1% went to having a job where someone was doing all that for everyone. You know what I mean? I think you just
Yeah.
have to
Wonder if it-
figure out,
it
we
needs
have to
come
figure out whether or not we're gonna be in charge of it and decide that that's what we wanna do. We've always said no, but I feel like we might be in a position now that we need to say yes in order to organize it.
Well, we
We're
could
the
say
only,
yes,
we're the
but-
only people that can do it, really. We're the only ones that can do it. And if we're in a position to say, yes, we wanna monitor this stuff, then we need someone to do it.
And it
That's
may,
a
it
higher
may,
position.
it may actually pay for itself,
Yeah,
the monitoring.
yeah.
I mean, look at
I
it
mean,
that
it's
way.
needed. It's a needed job.
Yeah, that's been one of the most constant things I've heard over the last couple of years.
And it's been years of this, like 10 years of this, where no one, you know, you gotta call this person for that group, this person for that group, that person for that group, and you know, it's confusing.
Yeah, and
Have this Meeting that Allison's proposing.
I think we email everyone and say, this is what we're thinking. What do you think?
Who else?
Would you like us to monitor your stuff?
Who else
Maybe, and
besides Bed in town though?
it
Cause
would
West Side
be-
20, there really isn't,
Well,
I
the
mean,
Homeowners
But you can do
Association.
bylaws. You can do
Yeah.
added bylaws and amendments to
Yeah, they
your-
do.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, you can do amendments to your,
Yeah, so the homeowners association of the West Side.
I mean, we could even throw self-on settlement.
So
in with
there's
it, An
three.
amendment.
Who else would we?
Self-on settlement can go in with, I mean, anything can change. If there's already bylaws in, you can amend it if there's an entity that's doing that. I think, I mean, those are obviously lawyer questions, but, I just feel like even if we didn't start with all of them, at one point, everything would come to that. Because it's always been a question since I've been on the board. You know, are you guys monitoring? No, we really have no authority to go in and say, you're not doing it right.
It seems to me that this position should be funded by the town. and not-
I think so
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
But-
that's why I asked that.
But we might not be able to we might have to, you know, say. You know,
Cause we don't really have a budget.
part-time,
budget.
and then when it becomes a full-time position, they budget it in. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's never gonna be a focus on it if it's always focused in 10 different directions. And
you know, this specific issue, I've been thinking about this before this other stuff came
Yeah.
up, but this is sort of narrow to, some people thinking that the 1% is voluntary, some people, yeah. And so we need to get the message out and then figure out who's responding. And if, you know, if there's someone on Airbnb saying, I'm renting my house out for four, yeah, you know, right.
Check didn't come in, you're like,
I mean,
right.
I
And,
don't know how people can't, I mean, we've sent out
yeah, but I mean,
flyers and cards and put in
yeah, but
paper.
mailed,
and- Yeah,
half the people don't pay attention. to
They're
mail.
not here.
yeah.
yeah, and the town, like I said, the town,
They qualify in it because they don't know what the qualifications are.
even one of the town councilors said she thought it was voluntary. But our legislation gives us a lot of authority.
Yeah.
It talks about confidentiality,
Yeah.
but it doesn't say it has to be the town employees doing that. So, and it also gives us the authority to do audits.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of authority and we can use it. Now, it's not going to get us from 150 a year to 500 a year, but it's going to at least,
Might get us to 2.
yeah, it's going to get us,
Paid for a position.
right,
Yeah.
right. So,
If I was paying it and I knew that there was the position of someone, you know, someone out here year round had a job, taking care of housing needs.
Right.
It would be much easier for me to write the check.
And it's
Right.
more, I mean, it's fair. There's the people that are complying and there's people that are completely ignorant and there's people that are not ignorant and not complying.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
right.
think
So-
this is fair.
anyway, okay, so I'm gonna,
Something to be able, I mean, someone needs to like have that list and check it,
yes,
you know?
right. So, yes, it's a matter of getting the responses from the town, the treasurer's office, and then figuring out what are people advertising and are they not on the list?
But I
or
mean, when
what
we
this-
call people, we're not, that's what I'm saying with the position of someone doing that as their job. They're calling and saying, I'm calling, I'm so-and-so and I'm with the housing, this is my job. you
Yeah.
should pay.
Well, we have the seasonal.
Like, if
we
we
have-
call them, they're gonna be like, I'm still not
But
gonna pay.
I
Miss
can't-
Brady is that person though.
Yeah.
And that's right now. She's been putting out a lot of notices on the Block Island Boulevard about seasonal rentals
tax.
and tax rental and STRs and she is starting the enforcement of this.
Yeah. But they must enforce property tax, right? Or do they? I don't know.
No.
Yeah,
No, I'm saying there is a precedence for
Yeah.
identifying,
Yeah,
communicating to people they have to do this.
I mean, the town has like 9 rentals that I think they are in charge of. I think, I'm not sure if they still do anymore, but that person could work on those too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really, I'm talking because I think it's a great idea. I'm just not quite sure how hard it is. You know, we might be talking about it. It might be really impossible for the town to add that. I don't know. I don't know. That's where we have to kind of dive into and find out. And if it's something that they don't want to do, then maybe we figure out how we can do it through this board and through the funds.
It's something we, one can go to the town and see if they'll fund the person, or we.
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, I don't think we're ready to do that yet, but I think once we organize ourselves.
But I mean, our projects they take a long time sometimes. So in the 3 years it takes us to do a project, we're getting money from the 1%. We could be funding a job
Right.
that's helping us get to the goal faster than 3 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's almost like they go together. I mean, that's how, and I don't mean to bring the BIC thing up again, but we couldn't get things done without having someone focused on it as their job.
Sure, yeah.
So we ended up getting stuff done a lot faster and getting accredited and all that because we decided to hire someone.
Right.
You know,
And
Okay.
The person that you hired, is it was the local person that took
yeah,
the job?
we fitted it out.
Okay.
We interviewed people, and first it was like a 20-hour week, and then it turned into Carolyn Barr does it now. And it's a full-time position, year-round position. And, you know, with our website, it's something that they could be in charge of, monitoring the website and updating it. I mean, there's a job there,
Oh, yeah.
Sure,
you know, and a busy job.
yes.
And something someone would actually enjoy, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because it would be rewarding.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, annoying, but it's rewarding. But there's enough for them to do. There's enough job.
Oh, there's plenty,
stuff
yes,
for
yeah.
them to do. It's not like we're just paying them nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can, you know, I mean, obviously, it's giving someone another job, a year-round person, a job, and, you know, organizing it all. And if it develops into more, then it becomes a bigger job. I just think if the town isn't gonna do it, we should still try to.
I agree.
I
Once,
just don't know how we
yeah.
go about it.
Yeah, what's
Whether we're
kind of the
allowed to.
First step on that path there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean.
figuring out what's going, all those property, yeah.
I don't know. And I think we need to maybe look into our stuff and see if it's something we can do.
Okay, so I don't know how to do this next step. Do I close the public hearing and then we go into a closed session? Okay, so I'll make a motion to go into closed session. All in favor? Aye. So then you cut off, yeah.
Been at Eli since 10:30 this morning.
So we'll make this.
No, it's fine. I just was like, you know, when you start like cleaning